started. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and the first night I'm going to insert a little something, and I asked our board to appease me for this just right quick. In the audience, we got a couple of higher education graduates. If you would please stand that graduated this past Saturday. I think there's 3 of you out there. Yeah. So we got 2 doctorates and 1 master, right? So congratulations for y'all, and thank you for all y'all do for Beaufort County Schools and making us a better place. So thank you, board, for letting us have that little bit. 2.1, approval of agenda.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. All right, 3.1, I need to recuse myself. Approval of the meetings, minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Okay. 4.1, Syngenics, Miss Amy Biggs, and has come to do a presentation on school safety and something to help better do school safety measures. Board, y'all have an attachment with a PowerPoint, and y'all have the floor.
Hi all, I'm Amy Briggs and this is Eddie Hall, and we represent Engage Systems. So we met with Dr. Keesman a few weeks ago, and he asked that we come out today and introduce you to Centegix Crisis Alert. So thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, and Engage Systems, a little background there, we are a strategic partner of Centegix all over the Southeast from a sales training and installation perspective, and we also train for them and as well as install for them all over the United States.
So Centegix is based on 100% your entire safety platform. It's one badge and one button on that badge, and the idea is you push a button and help is immediately on the way. So it is by far the fastest and easiest way to call for a health emergency from the everyday to the extreme. The numbers here are based on our use case of the number of deployments. We're in over 11,000 different locations and are quickly growing. So Centegix Crisis Alert, we are in districts as small as 2 schools to schools that have, to districts that have over 100. So why are we doing this? Well, based on what you see on the daily news, school shootings and other incidents, but the reality is that over 90% of the usage of the Crisis Alert platform are those everyday incidents. Your medical issues, behavior issue, physical altercation, or whatever that may be. So we have a lot of districts, we know a lot of states are providing districts with their free apps for a single year, but some of the feedback that we're hearing from some of those districts are a low adoption rate. You're asking, every teacher to put a school app on their personal device, and something happens and they have to use their phone for an emergency issue, their phone becomes open to subject records. So the adoption rate is really tough because teachers are saying, no, we don't want to do this, and it's really hard to mandate you do. Dead zones and location issues. What happens if you walk into, how many of you lose cell coverage when you walk into a classroom or a school? No one, ever?
No.
Yeah, so what happens if it's an emergency and you have to pull out your phone and you're relying on an app? A little scary. Inaccurate location information. So mobile apps are going to provide you with general information. You're in wing A1, A, B, or C, or floor 1, 2, or 3. Centegix is going to be able to get you within 20 or 30 feet of that actual incident. And then complications in emergency. In a non-emergency situation, how fast does it take you to unlock your phone, find that app that you're looking for? Think about in an actual emergency, you're under duress. You're going to have to unlock your phone, remember the name of that emergency app, find it, and then remember how to use it. So not an easy task. So therefore, that is why Centegix came up with pushing one button and help is immediately on the way. It is one button and one button on that badge, and Centegix is going to provide your entire staff with the badge. That's your custodians, that is your nurses, your counselors, your teachers, your admins, literally every single staff member. And we're going to cover your entire campus. Parking lots, ball fields, classrooms, hallways, the entire campus. Give you, precise location information, and then as far as audio and visual notifications, we are going to take over, or Centegix will take over your audio notifications with an alert and flashing strobes, and you'll see all that in just a few minutes. So again, it's one button and one button on that badge, and for 3 clicks for a staff alert, which again are going to be for 90% of your alerts, 3 consecutive clicks, and then for a school lockdown, we say to keep clicking. But for the sake of today's audience, it's actually 8 consecutive clicks. The reason why we don't say 8 is because the last thing we want you to do, in case of an active shooter, is to have to count to 8. So we just tell everyone, keep clicking, keep clicking, keep clicking. So again, those staff alerts, which are going to account for 90% of your alerts, are going to be based on what your protocols are. These are just some of the scenarios we see taking place: medical emergency, physical altercation, elopement, behavioral issue. Again, completely up to you.
Yes, we're going to talk about the mapping for a little bit and what those alerts actually look like. So what you would see here on the screen to the left side, if you're looking there, that is a legacy map. This is what a lot of maps look like. If you think about maybe even the fire escape that may be on the walls of your classrooms right now, that is a very static map, a map that is just sitting there that's outlined a general blueprint of the school. What Centegix has moved to now with a blueprint safety platform, you can see now the map on the right. You see a lot of different assets laid out on that map. You now have the ability to go into that map and lay out your life safety, safety and security assets. That could be anything from an AED to an EpiPen to a fire extinguisher. So in that type of emergency, when something happens, this is right here, you can actually see that you are now going to see the actual closest life safety device located to you. So if that's an AED, do I need an AED? Do I need a first aid kit? Do I need a stop bleed kit? Whatever that may be, you can now see that. So you see the flashing dot there. What happens in an alert? You heard that sound that just went off. Your responding team would get that alert. They're going to see the exact location of that staff member calling for help. In the top right there, you can see that it's a staff alert, and you get that staff member's name as well as the nomenclature of where they are located, saying that individual staff member is calling for help. During that time, that's where you can also see all of those life safety devices located around them. So you know if you need one of those devices, where that closest device may be located. In a campus-wide alert, unfortunately, we have to talk about, such as an active shooter type situation, we're going to notify the entire campus when that happens. And one of the things you'll notice here is up on the right, the different types of alerts we are going to notify the entire campus with. That visual alert there in the top, that's a strobe. It's not flashing on this one. I didn't want to mess that up. I knew it would. It's not flashing on this one, but all of those strobes in a campus-wide alert, such as a lockdown, would start flashing the color red. So that's every strobe on the entire campus. Audio alerts you're going to hear here in just a moment. We can integrate with your intercom system where it automatically plays a message across the entire campus. That message is custom. That's a message that you all create. The visual instruction as well. Going to be that next slide. We have the ability to take over every managed machine on your campus, letting them know that a campus-wide emergency is going on, such as a lockdown, with those protocols now listed on their screen. So even if you have a substitute in place for the day, you're not sure what those protocols are, it would take over their screen and those protocols would be listed right there. Now, bottom right, this is where it can get really important. We are going to notify your responding team at your local school. For a campus-wide alert such as a lockdown, also district-wide staff could choose to be notified. You also have the ability to work with your local law enforcement and notify them as well at the same time that you're notified. These alerts only take about 3 to 4 seconds to transmit. In that 3 to 4 seconds where you're getting that alert, you see that map, you see who's asking for help and where they're located. Law enforcement gets that exact same information in that same 3 to 4 seconds. Okay? So a really quick process, as well as an E911 backup call coming on the backside. Now, obviously, that E911 backup is going to take longer than 3 to 4 seconds. That's the reality of 911. This system, it's only going to be 3 to 4 seconds. When we talked about that takeover, now get off this. That audio is going to be a little long for this.
Lockdown, lockdown.
This is what you would see.
Lock the doors, stay away from the windows.
Encerrarse, encerrarse. Cierren las puertas con llave.
So the companion app, there is an app that goes with this system. However, this app is a little different. This app is not for all of your staff members to have on their device and actually call for help. This app is for your responding team only. Only those members that are actually going to see the alerts and only those members that can generate those other campus-wide alerts. And that companion app is also where you could have an evacuation, your lockdown drills, maybe it's a soft lockdown, a shelter in place, a weather-related emergency. That's where those types of alerts would actually live. And again, that's only for that responding team. One of the things we've really made it a point to do is start giving that data back so you all can see how the system is used, what the system is being used for, and act appropriately with that data. So during an alert, obviously that alert pops up. To close that alert, which every alert must be closed with a reason. At that point, the responding team is going to select that reason to close that alert, and it's gonna close. Now in the back end of the system, we're gonna save every bit of that data for you. Okay? So you now can go back in if you had a medical issue, if you had a physical altercation, whatever that may be, you can see to the second it was open, to the second it was closed, who opened it, who closed it, what the location was, the duration of it, and any other data you choose to add at that time. So all giving you this actionable data that you all can now run reports on and see the landscape of your schools, the landscape of the district, and what is happening across the campuses.
So, feedback, questions?
Board, you can go first.
How is the cost structured? Not what the cost is, but how's it structured?
So the cost is structured, if you're going with a district-wide deployment, it's a yearly cost per site. Every site would be the same, assuming that you were doing a district-wide. Taking it a step back, several years back, Centegix really tried to say, hey, let's look at a map of every single school and price it according to size. You can imagine with over 11,000 locations, that got pretty cumbersome pretty quick. So now it's a middle range of, we have so many elementaries, so many high schools, it's generally double the number. Elementaries are at least double the number of high schools generally. So it averages out to a fixed price per year.
You do a 3 or a 5 year contract.
Right. Do you have districts that do less than their full district?
Starting out, yes, and then they usually continue finishing out, usually budget concerns. You can imagine it can be quite the equity issue.
Yeah, because it's kind of hard to pick and choose between schools.
Yeah, the district where I personally live in, they just did the elementary schools, and it's hard to say, well, how's my elementary school child not as important as my middle school child?
Exactly. Okay.
Anybody got another question for him?
It's very, a very sophisticated system, very impressive, as are a lot of security systems. So my worry would, and obviously pretty easy to use based on what you passed around. But, cost-wise, I don't know how we'd pay for something like that.
Sure. So one thing on the cost side of it, the entire solution is sort of a hardware as a service, so you are not responsible for maintaining any of the product for the life of the contract. That is all covered under the agreement.
Anything else?
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
The closest school system that has this program right now to us,
To you, I'm not 100% how far is Surrey, North Carolina?
a long ways.
Sir.
Nobody in Raleigh has it?
Surrey.
Not today. A lot of them are looking at it. We're moving to South Carolina.
Wilmington?
Richland has it. Lexington one does as well. So Centegix was founded in the Atlanta area. So probably 85% of the schools in the entire state of Georgia have it. Almost 90% in the state of Nevada, mainly because Nevada's so spread out. But that's probably the largest deployment is the Clark County School District, which has about 380 facilities. Go down into Florida, you're looking at Palm Beach, Hillsborough, a lot of the major school districts down there as well.
Joe, do they like it?
I'm sorry, sir?
Is it successful?
It's very successful. We have not had a single customer that did not renew when their contract came up for renewal.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Something to think about.
I got one follow-up question.
Go ahead.
I like to know who I'm doing business with. Where are you from?
Me, sir?
Yes, sir.
I live in the Atlanta area, about in Cherokee County. Georgetown, about 40 miles north of the Atlanta area. Yes, sir. Centegics themselves are located down, right downtown next to the ballpark, the baseball ballpark.
Wow,
In a small little town in northeast Georgia called Toccoa.
you come a long way.
We've come a long way.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Are you presenting to
Thank
any
you.
other school boards in North Carolina while you're here?
So as a matter of fact, we have to go to South Carolina for an entire presentation Thursday morning down in Columbia.
Well, that's a nice area to go to, so, yeah.
Well, drive safe.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I hope you're flying.
Yeah. I'm moving on to 4.2, Board Policy 3100. I got 3 attachments. I told Donald that I was gonna put the original, the one up, and then you wanna look at the DS, correct?
Yeah, but I wanted to start with a brief timeline
Right,
to
good.
kind of bring everybody up to date. And I mentioned to the chair that I'm dealing with a sinus issue, so bear with me. I wanted to start by saying, at the board meeting on November the 28th, I submitted a review, proposed revisions to Policy Code 3100 with an attachment for reasons to modify. The board seemed to be in general agreement. The proposed revisions as presented was then sent to Attorney Stephen Rawson for review. And then on board meeting December the 12th, 2023, the board reviewed and discussed advisement back from Board Attorney Stephen Rawson on the proposed revisions. I then advised the board that I would go back and work on the policy revisions with consideration of the attorney's recommendations and bring back to the board for review at a later meeting, which is today. And if you would look at the attachments, the first attachment, Policy 3100, is the current policy. The second policy is the former revision, proposed revision that we did. It's got final on there. I don't know where that came from, but the one we're looking at tonight is 3100.
It's got draft on it.
DS revised, as
Yeah.
you mentioned.
The other one's got draft on it.
What's that?
The second one you were referring to's got draft,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Let's see.
So you wanna go to DS?
Yeah, want to go to DS. Okay, so the May 2024 proposed revision, DS, to Policy Code 3100 modifies the responsibility of the superintendent to coordinate with the board in the development of curriculums as to being solely responsible. The board attorney observed and recommended the Community Standards Committee referenced in the proposed revision presented to the board on November the 28th, 2023, is vague, as there are no recognized community standards to reference in Beaufort County. The current May 2024 proposed revision does not include this requirement, so we took that out. Another issue raised by the attorney was the inclusion of curriculum committee comprised of citizens which are not employees or staff members of Beaufort County Schools. The current practice is to select teachers, principals, and staff members to review and recommend curricula presentations. He stressed such a committee would necessarily be obligated to comply with the open meeting regulations and laws of North Carolina. This recommendation has also been removed, so we removed that one as well. Tried to be sensitive to, the attorney's concerns. As an alternate to the above, this May 2024 proposed revision stipulates that the Curriculum Selection Committee includes at least one elected school board member. The board member could report to the board in open session the progress of the curriculum committee as they research proposals. The language in Section D, prohibition on teaching critical race theory, has been rewritten to more clearly define this prohibition. This proposed revision also clarifies that an individual may not choose a gender identity different from their biological sex. And then finally, I recommend that Policy Code 3100 may propose revision as presented tonight, that it go back to the board attorney, hopefully for final review. Thank you.
Anybody got any questions for Don?
I do, Mr. Shreve.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for working so hard on this, first of all. As far as a minimum of one board member, would that be on a voluntary basis? I mean, how would that board member or members, I don't see where you stipulate how they would be chosen.
Well, I would think the board would nominate a board member, and that if that board member was, I know we're busy as board members. I found out that it's a very busy job. Maybe unlike some people may think, we work pretty hard. And I would just say, if somebody would make a motion, and if that board member feels like they want to do it and are able to do it, and the board all unanimously agrees on it, then that would be the board member who would want to do that.
And what if you had more than one that wanted to
I would just say the
serve?
majority, but I would say, instead of unanimous, I would recommend a majority.
Yeah, I meant to say that.
Yep,
Yeah, sorry.
And I'm gonna just throw this concern out. It's a concern that I have, not about board members participating in it, but I would not want any teacher to feel intimidated
Right.
and feel like they could not share. They're in the trenches every day, not us.
Right.
And I want them to be comfortable in any kind of curriculum study. I'd want them to feel comfortable, and I would worry that our presence could be misconstrued as a form of intimidation. I don't know about you, but I have teachers all the time say, I want to talk to you, and they're uncomfortable, and I don't know how we'd go about making them feel comfortable enough to share if they really have a problem with anything that's written in here.
Yeah,
I'd
sure.
want them, we have to be able to not only set policy, but we have to be able to listen and change policy when we have overstepped. So those are the concerns I have, is how you select the board member, and if you have 2 or 3 that want to serve because they have a real keen interest in that particular curriculum adoption, I would not want somebody to be left out of that. But also, can you adopt something if you have a room full of 5 board members and 2 teachers? Are you going to have teachers that say, I don't want to serve if I've got to serve with a board member, not because they have a personal grievance against us, but they are uncomfortable with the situation they're being put in. Does that make sense?
It does.
So,
Well,
but I
would-
think going to the attorney with what you've written here is certainly a good idea.
Well, I would say that we would certainly start with one, and hopefully we could work out who would be the best one to represent. The other thing I think it does is gets the board a little bit more involved. It's a transparency issue, and I think, remember what happened with Savas? Remember that? Well, I think having a board on that committee, certainly not to intimidate anybody, that with that board member reporting to us and keeping us aware of the progress of it, we would be well informed when that presentation came up to make our choices, something that didn't catch us off guard like Savas did.
All right.
I hope that answered your
Yeah,
question.
I'm fine. You anything?
Sure.
All right, go ahead.
You know I have something. There's about 9 or 10 revisions, and for the most part, I can go along with most of that. Speaking toward your concern, with all due respect, I don't care how you elect them, because I don't want to elect them. I've already elected a person to run the committee. He's sitting right over there, Dr. Parker. I believe you are head of curriculum, is that not correct? I can't quite see what that says, but I believe that's what it says.
Yes, sir.
And y'all have heard me say before, the crowd, people just listen to my many things I've had to say. I don't try to make us out something we're not. But we are not U.S. senators, people. We're local school board members, meaning we're important, and we are in this county. This board is the top dog in education in this county. Our superintendent, we hire to run the day-to-day operations. He, in return, hires you as executive directors to run different pieces as well. I mean, and I do appreciate, Donna, what you've gone, and I can agree with most of what you have here. I just think that it's a terrible idea to put a board member on any committee that sits in the room when we have our professional educators looking at what to do. And I prefer, it's just what I prefer, because sometimes these curriculum searches, I'm gonna call it, takes months, could take a year.
Traditionally, it's an 18-month process.
Yeah, it's a long process. And I want you to come back in here and give me an update.
Which we've been more than happy to do.
Which you and I know you would, because you have, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think that a board member sitting in the room, in the committee, is a good idea because of what you were kind of leading up to. It's going to cause issues. So I'm not for that, but we'll let the lawyer look at it, but I'm not, please explain to him what my concerns are.
Mr. Williams, I've
sir.
got a comment
Sure,
back
sure.
at that.
Sure.
We were at the School Board Association conference in Greensboro, and we talked to superintendents, I did personally, and other board members. We asked if they had committees across North Carolina, the ones that we met, that they had committees in the schools that school board members sat on. And a lot of them said that they did. So other people
Yeah.
do that, Mr. Williams. So this
Yeah.
is not something that we
Right.
want to do that's very unusual here in Beaufort
No,
County.
I understand. And we've had committees in the past. We've had building committees. We've had personnel committees. Eltha can remember, and Matt, you can remember when we had those split up. And we did comprise of those committees. But I'm just saying sharing a committee with the educators. And once again, that's just my opinion. That's what this is all about.
Well, can I
is
say
getting-
this?
Sure,
Can I also
sure.
add that we did, it's my understanding that we had committees before Dr. Cheeseman came, not saying anything against Dr. Cheeseman, but my point is, we did have committees, it was my understanding.
And can
We
I
had-
res-
we
can I
had-
respond
They
to
died
that?
during fits.
Please,
I'm sorry.
you
They
respond
died-
before
they
I
got
respond.
committees.
Yeah.
Several
No,
people's
no,
talking,
he's-
I can't
Hold on.
hear.
The FIPS era is when the committees went away, and the board was the committees.
And the reason for that is that it became, as a board member, you became very isolated. I served on the building committee because of my background. People that served on personnel or the curriculum committee, I had no idea what they were doing, and what was brought to me was voted up or down. And this was years before Dr. Phipps left, so Dr. Cheeseman had nothing to do with it. When we came together as a board, we decided that every decision we made would not be made by a committee, but would be made by 9 members knowing all of the details. And that's why that happened, and I still support that. I don't think you want me to make a decision for you, because I think you have a right to hear all of the information yourself. And as far as the way we've been doing it, I personally, to kind of ping pong on Terry, I have been very satisfied with our ability to let the teachers, whether it be social studies, science, math, elementary areas, I've been very pleased with the presentations that we have had. And when you go back to SAVIS, what happened? We did not adopt it. So we did not adopt it because we were not happy as a majority with the presentation. So Dr. Parker has given us every opportunity to vote up or down. And if we had more questions and we need to table it until we can get more information, that's what we've done. But I just don't, and I don't have this was well done, okay? What you've done was very well done, and I appreciate it.
I wanna
I'm
add
just saying,
to her.
let's walk slowly through this.
That's what we're
Because the
doing.
people sitting out there, I don't want any of them to feel like we're trying to tell them that they're not doing their job
Okay.
correctly.
Okay, can I add
Yeah,
to
and I
what
gotta
she's
get Gary-
saying?
Gary- I recognize Gary. Go ahead, you go ahead, and then
Yeah,
I'm gonna
because she
recognize-
was
Yeah,
talking,
go ahead.
let me
Yeah, you're
just
good.
say this.
You're good, you're good.
I would, sir, what we're saying is that, and maybe I didn't explain it, we didn't explain it in here, is that representative that would be on that committee would have no more authority than anybody else that's just making suggestions and trying to have the best possible curriculum that we could and to keep the board advised. And I just, again, I think it's it's more board involvement and it's a transparency issue. And that's all I have
I
to say.
understand that.
All right, Mr. Carlton.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The curriculum selection process is a lengthy process, and so many times, or in the case of Savas or some of the rest of them, Bridges or whatever, for the first we know of it is at the board meeting, and I believe that further transparency is important, and I believe that if there is a board member or if there's someone who can report to us the direction that the committee is going, what they've looked at, if they didn't feel like they had sufficient options available to them or whatever, I would like to know that along the process rather than wait till possibly, I'm not saying this was the case, but wait till the last minute when we're presented with one option. I'd just like some more transparency in the process, some reporting to the board, just very brief reporting to so that we have so that we know what direction it's going in and how it's progressing.
I don't disagree with that at all, Mr.
No.
Carlton. I'm just saying, I'm concerned that we're going down a slippery
I'm
slope.
not through yet.
That's all I have to say.
And,
Hang on, Charlie, he hadn't gone.
okay, go
Charles
ahead.
hadn't
No,
gone.
let Charles go.
I'm also concerned about the transparency issue. I'm sensitive to what two of y'all are saying. And I would be the last to want to go in and be the bull in the china shop with the staff. I would want to avoid that at all costs. But I do think we need some ears. I remind you, we don't have a social studies program now. We didn't buy that one. And I'd not like to end up in that situation again with 200 people out here and are all mad at us, and I'd just like to cut it off before that point. I look at this thing maybe like if a board member was on there. I think the board members who have different areas of expertise could be used effectively. And if we did that, lost my train of thought.
Charles, can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead. Maybe you spur me on it.
I feel like, this is appropriate. Mr. Carlton, I think and I don't want to jump ahead of you, Mr. Carlton, but Mr. Carlton, I believe, has an issue where a parent has called him and concerned about a curriculum in our schools, about a book that's talking, I think, to third graders about
let's stay on this topic right
about two dads. But I think having somebody a board member in there would help catch something like that.
Well, that's the thing. I just think we need to pick up some of these things earlier that we are dealing with at the last minute. And that's why I would favor this. But I'd be adaptable about how we did it. And we certainly should be sensitive to the staff and not be bullying the staff or anything, for sure.
And I'm not saying that we would. I just want to be mindful of us trying to do their job.
Yeah.
And if
We're
it
all on
would
the same
help,
team in that
if
regard.
Dr. Parker brought us a continuation, in other words, let's say they're working on, we adopted Bridges, but if we had 2 or 3 along the lines updates, this is where we are, this is what we're considering. I'm gonna send you links to all the 3 different ones, the 10 different ones. Please ask questions so that when it does come time to address what Mr. Carlton says, it's not a hurry up and pass this. We as a board, all 9 of us, would have had an opportunity to have input, which is kind of what this is input and transparency, without us actually being part of their committee, but being part of the adoption. But anyway, it doesn't matter what I think at this point, because I
Mr.
got to go
Williams
to the
wanted the floor one
attorney.
more time, and then,
I'm gonna make it very, I'll make it very brief, because I don't want it reported that I'm not for transparency. What
I
I'm
am
saying is, I
all
want
for
my transparency from that fellow sitting over there, because that's his job. And it's not, I do not, and I'm sure other people do it, Donald. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't think it's a good idea. And if I
I
was
think
in,
a lot of families out there in the community would agree with me,
well,
more than what you're saying.
I didn't say they didn't agree with you, and I know a lot of them disagree with me, but it hadn't caused me
And
to stay
we're
up
here
all night
representing
anyway.
families too.
But
We're
still, I
sending
got one
it
more
to the
issue.
lawyer.
I got
Yeah.
one more. I
All
said
right.
there was 2 items in here that I didn't agree with.
All right.
And the other one, just for simplicity, when it gets down to saying that we're gonna write in, actually saying that they must discuss the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, cursive writing, multiplication tables, memorization, because I've heard that before in this room, that we don't teach those things and when I'm in the school. That is wrong. Now, if I'm wrong, you're the expert, you stop me. But I'm told by schools that I have visited that on cursive writing, the memorization of the tables, they actually have to fill out a form and mail it to the state that has been done. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, sir, and we survey schools as well.
And it's got a name for that form. I don't remember myself, but I bet you know what it
It's
is.
usually attestation.
There you go. So I was just saying, rather than having to spell this out, as long as we stick to selecting a curriculum that follows the standards, they have to do these things already. So there's no need making it more complicated than it has to be.
All right.
But send it back to your lawyer, see what he says.
Hang on, Back has not had a chance. Hang on.
Okay,
I
sure.
want to get into this thing. No, I think we've heard enough.
Yep.
We've got an attorney. Let's let him look it over and let's talk about it later.
That's what we have been available to and have proposed all along, and more
You said
than
it right to
willing
start
to
with.
do that.
You said it right to start with when you finished. Yes, you did, Donald. Thank you. All right, let's move on down the list. 4.3, iReady curriculum purchase. This is a non-action item, and everybody has 2 attachments, and we have staff coming forward. So, welcome staff and Dr. Parker. You have 2 attachments. Which one do you want to start with, sir?
One says final.
The first one you'll be covering is the iReady one-pager.
One pager.
Good evening, Amanda Atwell, K-12 Curriculum Director. Tonight I have with me Catherine Davis, who's a 4th grade teacher at CPS, and Molly Moore, who is a math interventionist at Eastern. We are bringing the iReady renewal to you tonight, that it is my understanding will be an action item on June 4th. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the one-pager, and Molly will talk about how Eastern Elementary uses iReady Math within their school, and Catherine will talk about how CPS uses iReady for reading within their school. iReady is an online reading and math program that has been used in our K-8 schools since 2016. The program is research-based and proven to work. Several independent studies as recent as last school year and conducted without guidance or funding by Curriculum Associates, who owns iReady, found that iReady personalized instruction students outperform their peers, make positive and statistically significant gains on state test measures, and achieve higher scores than students who do not use iReady within their schools. Students using iReady for an average of 45 minutes or more per week typically show 46% higher growth in reading and 38% higher growth in math than schools who do not utilize the program. iReady includes 3 parts: assessment, personalized instruction, and a teacher toolbox. Assessment components include a diagnostic, which is given at the beginning, middle, and end of the school year, growth monitoring, standards mastery, literacy tasks, school tools for instruction, and resources for scaffolding comprehension. All of these resources help to pinpoint what students know and identify where they need support in reading and math. Additionally, they use the assessment to evaluate projected growth for specific groups of students, to assess students' understanding of grade level standards in reading and math, to ensure students are on track for reading success by measuring foundational literacy skills, to target student needs and support priority comprehension skills by providing access to grade level texts. The personalized instruction portion of the platform has been proven to drive growth with precise and differentiated instruction for all students. It's powered by the diagnostic results and challenges students with skills needed to progress to their grade level and beyond. It engages students as active participants in their learning and provides fun and interactive games to strengthen students' understanding of reading and math concepts. The Teacher Toolbox is a digital collection of instructional resources that our teacher uses. It has lessons and activities and implementation support. It also supports differentiated instruction with materials for multiple grade levels that can be used for intervention, remediation, and enrichment within the school. There's flexible content that is designed to build student engagement, classroom discourse, and routines. And the Teacher Toolbox uses research-based resources that are aligned to North Carolina standards. Within our schools, we use iReady to evaluate student achievement for reading and math, to provide whole and small group instruction, to remediate, enrich, and provide intervention for students, to determine grade level proficiency, to implement data-driven instruction, and to prepare our students for end-of-grade tests. Purchasing this contract will allow us use of iReady from August 26, 2024 through August 26, 2025. A list of schools that are renewing, as well as the funding sources for purchasing, can be found on page 2 of the document that you received. And additionally, CPS and Eastern have designated times for you to be able to see iReady in action if you would like to do so. And those times can be found on page 2 of your document as well. I will now let Catherine talk about how iReady is used at CPS.
So, I'm Catherine Davis. I teach 4th grade, and I'm super excited to have this opportunity. Any of you that know me know that I'm a huge iReady fan, and have been since 2016. Lynn and I were just talking about how long we even had this program. It is tried and true. Everything she said, it was a lot, and it's a lot to swallow, but it's true. And I'm here to tell you that it's true. One of the biggest things that I can say about iReady is it is a direct correlation with how they're going to do on integrate testing. When we have analyzed our results from past years, there is a direct correlation. Now, I will say that the students typically perform better on the integrate test than they do iReady. For example, one of the things that we were talking about earlier was on iReady last year, we were at 67% proficient, but on the EOG and reading, we were 72% proficient. On math, iReady at the end of last year, we were 81%, but on the integrate test, we were 91% proficient. So iReady is even more rigorous than what they're going to see on the integrate test. So it's almost like they get to the integrate test, they're like, God, this is easy, which is what you want them to do, because they have been, it's been hard. It's been such a challenge for them to get through all of the components of iReady. Another thing that I would like to say about iReady is obviously it's research-based. Obviously, we have the results to prove the benefits of it. Obviously, there is a direct correlation. I mean, we've seen it. We have it in writing and documentation, like it's on the wall. But also, a couple of things with iReady. We were a stretch school for math last year, which means our overall school was at 59% stretch growth, not typical. Like, we're like, everybody should meet typical growth, right? But at CPS, we're worried about the stretch. Like, we're worried about getting up to here. And so because we were a stretch school, we were invited to present for iReady to people all over the state that are users of that. And that has opened the door for us. We have been able to share with so many schools that have come in and observed us. We've done this presentation. We would love to do the presentation for any of you that are interested. It was a dynamite presentation. collaboration. We've had schools that have come and visited Tuckerman Primary School. So it has just opened up the door for us to collaborate with schools across the state, which always has been a dream of mine, and how much we've learned from them. So that's just another reason. And then lastly, Kelly and Angie, that are the iReady gurus, are phenomenal. Like, they're not just there to sell you the program. They are with you all along the way. And so just one experience that I had was, I had some questions, because even after 8 years of analyzing iReady, I'm still learning new things. And so I had this question, so I called Angie. Angie already had my class pulled up and was ready to answer any of my questions. There was not a question she couldn't answer. So they are truly vested and know about the program. And they're there to support you anytime. I called her earlier today because I had a question, and she called me back within an hour. She was like, hey, what you got? You know, she was able to answer every single question. So the support from them is top notch. So I'm a huge iReady fan. Already we had, and because we shared our story, we were able to get for free the iReady pathway for reading, because we'd only had it for math. And we're already seeing the growth from our iReady Diagnostics on having the pathway. So that means that it's looking like that our reading could be even higher. So that's just my little piece, but we need it. And y'all are welcome to come see it.
All right, so we're gonna switch gears. I'm gonna talk about how we use it in math at Eastern. My name is Molly Moore, and I'm one of the interventionists there at Eastern. A little different for us because we do not have a testing grade. We are pre-K, kindergarten, and first. So we do use iReady a little differently than the testing schools would, because they are obviously using it to prepare for tests. So right out of the gate, you got to remember these kindergartners are coming in to us for the very first time. So we need a baseline. We need to know what they know and what they do not know concerning math. A little easier for our kinders that are moving to first. We can use iReady to look at the previous year's data, to see where the holes are, to see things we did really well, domains or areas that we really need to work on. It completely guides our instruction throughout the year. I brought a lot of data, because I'm a very visual person, so I did bring this for you to see. So I'll just show it in case you're a visual like me. Catherine mentioned for reading, so we only have it for math at our school. This is kind of where we are now, and we are still in the middle of a testing window right now. At the beginning of this school year, 6% of our students were proficient in math. 6%. As it sits today, we are almost, and I think we might, for the first time in a very long time, meet our 70% proficiency goal for students. So we have grown 6% to almost 70% proficient in math. And iReady helps us track this throughout the year. It provides very explicit data. It gives us areas that we need to remediate in. It gives us ready-to-go lessons for our teachers to pull from and remediate. It gives us a wealth of information. Like I said, it guides our instruction. It shows us where we need to go, and it also shows us where we begin. So which is super encouraging for our teachers, our students, and our parents. iReady is phenomenal with parent communication. We have had a lot of parent involvement this year in our school. Parents have been coming in to look at the data that we look at. We've invited them to tour our data room and see the data firsthand for themselves, so that they can see just how explicit and how invested we are in their child's education and in the growth of their child. So we have had a really good response with parents this year, being involved with data and moving forward with that. So that's been a huge plus for us as well. Again, we use it. We're right in the middle of this testing window now. We'll know tomorrow whether we met that sit goal or not. So we're really excited. We're kind of hanging on every second here. So anyway, we do use it. We love it. It's a phenomenal program, and it provides a wealth of information for us.
Well, I'll start off. Thank you all three for coming in, and both of you. I could only be a joy to be in your classroom, to be back. I don't want to go back that age again, but I've seen iReady at work for years. I've seen what iReady's done at all the schools and how it's progressed through the math scores. So, Donald, I think you had your hand up first.
the excitement and the data was phenomenal. The data was the most important. So thank you.
Is there a reason why you're not doing reading already?
From my.
I was just curious.
Yes, from my understanding, and Amanda may be able to answer that better, so go ahead. We do not have reading at our school. From what I understand, the program can be bought in different areas and different domains. So we elected not to have the reading at our school, and it probably could be that there is some reasoning behind that because we are not a testing school and we are pre-K to first, so that
I got you.
could have some reasons.
It sounds like they've just been so successful.
Yes.
The state requires that K-3 schools use M-Class and DIBELS 8 for reading.
Okay.
So some schools use iReady on top of that as an additional purchase, but the district purchases the program, for 4-8 math. For 4-8 reading, if schools are interested, and for K-8 math, because that K-3 math is covered by M-Class and DIBELS 8.
I will say, as a K-4 school though, I see the benefits of having both M-Class and iReady. And one of the ways we were talking about it today is, iReady has a phonics domain that, you're able to see how the kids are performing within phonics, which is a lot of what M-Class does. It checks them on their ability to sound out words and how fast they read words and all the things. And so M-Class digs into the phonics a little bit more and gives you a clear picture of the strengths and weaknesses. But to me, iReady reading, even for K-3, gives you a big picture. So how are they with vocabulary? How are they with literature? How are they with informational? So I personally feel, coming from a K-4 school that has all of it, I can definitely see the benefits of having that.
Gary?
I wanted to thank you, and Amanda, I'm going back to something that you gave us several months ago on the mid-course testing. So when I saw this iReady presentation coming up, I spent several hours, some with you and some on my own, to kind of see what the data actually said. So, and I could tell from that presentation that you made several months ago that it was very important to you. And I think we can. I'm like you. I like to see the numbers and calculate the numbers. And I've told some of the other folks before. I looked at the iReady results from what was for each school, what was above grade level and on grade level, and that's primarily what I focused on. And iReady gave me a good summary of it. Also, your presentation tonight with the executive summary is something that we really have needed, and need now, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, everything that we do in the school, in order for our students to grow and to be proficient, we have to ensure that our data is what's driving our instruction, and that's the biggest plus of iReady.
Yes.
It allows
Thank you.
our teachers to use that data to drive their instruction and help students grow.
Charles, did you have something?
Yes. Excuse me, I'm dealing with hay fever today. Y'all won me over a long time ago, so I'm with you on this, and I plan to take you up on the observations. But I am curious, can I observe the iReady in the other 6 schools?
I specifically reached out to these 2 schools because they were assisting with the presentation tonight. But I will be happy to reach out to the other principals and get a list of times for you to see it in
That'd
action
be
in other
great.
schools if you would like.
Look forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just have one other question.
Go ahead.
With this is a renewal, understood.
Yes.
It's a good program. Were there any other such tools that should be considered?
As far as components of the iReady program,
Well, the process.
as Catherine mentioned, it's not used, the reading portion is not used in all of our K-3 schools, so, that could always be a consideration, but it does add, it probably would add $50,000 to the quote.
Okay. But were there any other vendors that have comparable products?
I would say not in completion. That there are other vendors that offer similar products. IXL is a similar product that our middle schools have chosen to purchase, as we talked about a couple of months ago or last month, because we feel that is more appropriate at the middle school level in some areas. But for elementary students, iReady far out, it exceeds most other vendors.
Okay, you've answered my question.
It is, y'all, everybody's got the quote on the back page and how it, and the PRC codes that take care of it. And this is out of the state textbook fund, correct, Ms. Lewis? Yes, all right.
What's the renewal date on this?
The renewal date is August 26th.
August, but
Not 2026, but this year.
August
Yeah.
26th,
Yeah.
The date,
2024.
right, I got
it's
that.
slated to come back to us in June for an action item if we want to wait that long, or if
Well-
everybody likes it or what. It's the board's decision, and the board's weighing in.
Well, that was what I was gonna ask. Since everybody seems to be in agreement, why are we looking at it as a non-action item?
It was giving the board time to review.
Well, I
it.
mean, but they're gonna go out still and do it, but it seems like everybody's in agreement.
If you're in agreement, you can definitely move it, but out of a request to other board members asking for more time.
Okay.
That's why we put it there. But if
That's
the
fine.
board would like to move it, we'd be more than happy to
Yeah.
move it.
We can move
Mr.
it.
Chair.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules and we move this item to an action item for tonight's vote.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Anybody got a discussion?
Yeah, we're up on this one. We were just complaining last time because we were not up on it.
Right. Well, I could tell the way
So
you were
everybody-
talking, you did
so
know about it.
is everybody good?
That's why I was asking,
Well-
why are we holding off and having to
Yeah,
come
no.
back and look at it again?
I had one thing that I didn't mention, and I didn't want to be outstanding on it, but we were given an invitation tomorrow. Well, I would have liked to have had that invitation to review some of this before the board meeting, not after. But that was my only thing. I'm good
Okay.
with it.
Okay, all right, all in favor of moving to the action item, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right,
I make a motion, we approve it as an action item tonight.
all right,
Second.
all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Great
Thank
job,
you.
ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Charles, the only reason I said that was I saw that you were in agreement.
What was that?
I said, the only reason I was saying let's move it, I saw you in agreement with it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't want to push you on it, but you seemed okay with it.
Yeah.
If not, just holler back at me.
All right, we're moving on down to
Okay.
4.4, COPS grant, Chief Technology Officer, Ms. Godfrey, sorry, Godfrey.
Good evening, Chair Allen, Vice Chair Williams, board members, Dr. Cheeseman, staff, and community members. Tonight, I'd like to share an opportunity with you for an upcoming safety and security grant opportunity. We have the opportunity to apply for the 2024 School Violence Prevention Program grant. The grant is a federal program grant that is funded through the Department of Justice and the Community Oriented Policing Services, also known as COPS, that provides $73 million for K-12 school funding purchases for school safety technology. So if awarded, we would receive a maximum of $500,000 with a 25% awardee match. Each award covers a 3-year time span. Grant funding could include anything for school safety measures that are in and around K-12 primary and secondary schools and school grounds that are applicable purchases that may include safety and security cameras and server upgrades, access control for buildings, weapon detection systems, and additional technology that might be needed for expedited law enforcement during an emergency, as well as any other safety technology deterrent measures that is approved by the COPS office. Applications are submitted in a 2-step process, each with its own deadline. The first deadline would be to submit our original proposal on June 11th with a secondary date of June 17th. Just prior to moving forward with this, I wanted to share the opportunity with the board because what we would do is working with the district and with the board, we would like to move forward with whatever the highest priority needs are based off the school board and the district needs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay,
We
could
can
I?
get $500,000, let's roll.
That's, why say no?
We're good at grants these days.
Yes, absolutely. I was just going to say, if you should need any help, I would be willing to help you.
Okay,
All
thank you,
right.
sir.
Anybody got any more questions for 4.4?
No, move on.
All right,
Thank you.
4.5, budget request. Everybody's got an attachment.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Lewis.
Good evening. You will see attached the first copy that says draft. That is the copy that you all saw at the previous board meeting and I believe approved to go forward with. Since that time, we have been made aware that there is a presentation of a possible 8.5% raise to our faculty. So I wanted to show you what the difference would be if that 8.5% truly did come to fruition. So there you see the numbers, and you see with the 100% savings, there's about $393,371 difference. At 95%, you're looking about $389,500, and at the 80%, $378,000 more that we would need to request from the commissioners to meet that. Like I said, should the 8.5% be what the
So-
state provided?
This is coming out of that, I think I saw in the news, they got a surplus of X number of $1 billion they gotta find to spend by July 1. Is that correct? Is that where this money's coming from?
I believe that's where they're coming up with the number, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Anybody got any questions for Ms. Lewis? This is the waiting game from the state. I don't know what to.
So, with your blessing, we'll submit the draft and your capital request to Brian Alligood tomorrow, county manager, who's anticipating it. But when we receive the presentation date and time, we'll inform you. But in all scenarios, we'll share it with the county commissioners of what the impacts could be.
All right. Moving on. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. 4.6, new school update. Dr. Cheeseman.
Sure, I wanted to remind everyone that this Thursday, May 9th at 12 o'clock, right here in this room, Jimmy Height with Height Associates and members of the board, members of the county commissioners will be present to have a less than 1 hour conversation about updates on what's going on with the new school. And really, the update is not a lot's going on with the new school. Other than the traffic studies being conducted right now, Mr. Height is still looking at the design of the building, receiving feedback from our teammates, looking at the land itself, just received the survey back. So we're all very excited to hear what he's going to report this Thursday, with the potential to leave this space and go walk the property afterwards, depending what the weather looks like. But again, 12 o'clock, May 9th, right here in this room.
Can I make a comment on that? This really is to Ms. Taylor and Ms. Brantley. If you will communicate to your staffs, this is a very slow process, and it takes a lot longer to build a school than to build a house. And so please be patient with us, and we want to do it right, and we want to do it one time. But all of this, Dr. Cheeseman and TW and Terry are on top of the concerns that you have, and they're communicating with the architect, and they're doing a great job of communicating and getting some answers that I think some of your staff has been seeking. But please be patient. It really is baby steps, and being in the remodeling industry like I am, I really do think I could build 3 houses in the time that it's going to take to build a school, but there's just so many hoops that have to be jumped through. But I reassure your staff, I appreciate that they have come to the meetings and shared their concerns and their input. I appreciate that you as principals are trying to keep a lid on things, and because we have a job to do now in the buildings that you're in. And that needs to be our focus. The other stuff, we will promise you, we will take care of it, but right now, just get to the next 6 weeks.
Yep.
But thank you for what you're doing, and thank your staffs for attending those meetings. That's
We'll
it.
move on to 4.7. Opportunity Scholarship, you got an attachment, HB 823. Dr. Cheeseman.
Yes, I added this attachment today as we can continue to get updates from our General Assembly. And this is not good news for public schools of North Carolina, as this is House Bill 823, Opportunity Scholarship Programs. And this shows how your General Assembly, state legislators, are working towards funding the Opportunity Scholarship Program. And as you'll see, they provided $248 million in non-recurring funds to clear the wait list, as they had over 72,000 applicants this year. But it also appropriates $215 million in recurring funds for their reserve to always be able to pull from, and also appropriates $25 million in recurring funds for children with disabilities. But it's over the next 7 to 8 years. If you take a look down bottom, these are in fact recurring dollars that could have been used for public schools. But you'll notice that it jumps from 176 million to 191 million, and then in school year 26, an absolute leap to 625 million. And by 2031, you're sitting at almost $800 million a year that are not going to public schools of North Carolina and the 115 school districts. So I just wanted to share this with you, so as communities start to ask questions as to why we continuously ask county commissioners for additional funding, why we're writing grants for what seem to be basic needs nowadays in terms of safety and security and what kids need. You're not seeing that type of support come into the public schools. And when you're looking at statewide position allotments dropping based on ADM, you're seeing federal dollars dropping based on ADM. And we're hoping that our county commissioners help us with increases that are often driven in unfunded mandates, such as pay raises and retirement costs and benefit package costs, none of which any of you in the room control. But these are the types of things that impact public schools. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. So as you continue to speak with, Keith Kidwell, who represents Beaufort County in the General Assembly, and also Senator Jim Perry, those are types of conversations that you can have. But just wanted to bring it to your attention of what's happening in the General Assembly right now. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to 5.1, Ms. Kervin. On the way up, board, we have an attachment from the Mayola Local Dairies. Ms. Kervin.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I just want one moment of your time. I've come before you tonight to seek approval to roll over my milk bid for next year. It's with Mayola Dairies. There is a COLA increase of less than a penny per carton, and I think this is a sound move moving forward. We are not getting lots of bids from outside when we do seek extra business. Pet Dairy was the main competitor, and they're not bidding in this area at the moment. So we are still cheaper per carton than a lot of our surrounding counties, and I research that regularly just to make sure that we're in a good place. So my recommendation is that we can do a rollover with our milk bid this year, please.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Ms. Kervin.
Thank you, Ms.
Love it. Thank you very much.
Real fast, I want to remind everyone in the room that next month, Ms. Kervin will be recognized in Greensboro as the North Carolina State School Nutrition Director of the Year. So congratulations to you. Mr. Doan and I look forward to being there to celebrate with you. So congratulations and thank you for all of what you do for our children.
Thank you, Ms. Kervin.
Thank you, Ms. Kervin. I call her our superstar.
Oh, yeah. 5.2, we have an attachment, Beaufort County Sheriff Office, Beaufort County Schools, SRO, MOU. You have an attachment.
So I met with Chief Deputy Hickman a couple Fridays ago. All items that are still highlighted are left there for your recognition of what our discussion points were. Sheriff Hammonds, through Chief Deputy Hickman, has conveyed that he agrees to all of those changes. However, there is one that he does not, and that's what I would bring to your attention on page 3, Roman numeral 8, under duty hours, letter A. And as requested by the board, it states that SROs will provide law enforcement services during the entire school day as set forth by Beaufort County Schools, and on each day the district is open for business. And so the phrase "district is open for business" is where we're stuck. And so the sheriff believes that when students are present, that's when SROs should be present. And we've had some general conversation that typically when the adults are in the building but without children, the remedy is to call 911 if there's an issue, very similar to what other community members would be doing in their own businesses. And so I'm seeking advice from you as to how you'd like me to proceed and what language, but I wanted to bring attention to a few things for you, for your consideration before you tell me what to do.
So,
And so with that, typically in July, we now have one school that services summer school. Well, those kids would be at John Small this year, and so you would have an SRO present. But also, every middle school, grades 6 through 8, have students who play athletics on campus intermittently, but they're there. And all high schools do as well, minus our early college high school. So in short, you're looking at your 3 traditional high schools, and then your K-8 schools, and your middle schools. So what you're not looking at that would have students on a more traditional schedule every day would be Eastern Elementary School, John Cotton Taylor, John Small when they're not doing summer school, and also Chocowinity Primary. And so essentially, you're looking at 4 schools, maybe 5, in a given year that would not have students in it on a routine basis. So in short, I'm asking if you would like me to negotiate the term of middle schools, high schools, anytime, keep it as open for business, and go back and say, hey, this is a point that you don't want to budge on. Where would you like to be?
I'll start right quick. So Sheriff Hammond called me, I don't know, it was a week or so ago, I was on the road, but he's hooked on the open for business, and I get what he's saying from a business standpoint, because the summertime, we do have some schools that have kids in them, summer school and the sports and sports workouts and all that. And then I get what he's saying, that it's no different than my business or Donald's business or Carolyn's business or anybody else's business when there's, and I'm not discounting any of the admin staff that's in the room, but you're basically at a job in the admin staff. And you're basically going to ask an SRO to sit there and play TikTok or play whatever all day long that he or she deems that they want to do all day. I get it, and walk around the room. So if we can come up with some type of language that releases some of his staff, or he's going to be doing training in the summer times. And he was in the room, but I think he must have had to leave. Yeah. But we need to be able, because he's going to be doing training. It was like 3 or 4 things that he had to do that they were doing through the year to re-up. What's that entry training that they do? Mm-hmm. The emergency entry training and active shooter training. There's a whole bunch of different things, but his brushing up on yearly trainings with all of his employees. So that's where I'm at, and I think we can work through this very easily with some language and get this done, so we can go ahead and get this MOU signed. So
Tito.
Go ahead. You got what you.
I was just gonna, are we saying that in the summer, school is, the students are outside, and are we saying the sheriff's, the SROs or the sheriff's department would not cover that activity?
If the school has kids in it, i.e. there's
on campus.
There's 4 campuses that don't have schools, kids in it during the summer. I think you said Eastern,
John Cotton Taylor, CPS, and sometimes John Small.
But everybody else has got kids coming and going through the summer. All the high schools, most of the middle schools.
Anything 6-8.
Yeah, 6-8. Okay, and then, of course, our summer school program has got, of course, it's gonna be loaded up with kids.
Dr. Cheeseman, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Sure you do.
No, I don't. I just wonder what your thoughts.
I'm not upset about it.
Okay.
Well, my thoughts are conveyed in the original writing of the district is open for business, but as Chairman Allen is saying, kind of in the give and take of things, recognizing that you're still trying to train SROs, you're trying to do all types of advancement. Can we write some type of language here that states that, Beaufort County Schools and on some type of agreed scheduling. Meaning, if I know in advance that I'm going to have a school that's not going to have kids in it for a week or for 2 weeks, can they rotate and shift their SRO? I think that's doable, right?
Sure.
But I also believe that I don't think the sheriff was aware of how many schools have kids on it almost every day of the summer, and one counts as much as 500.
Well, that was my concern, to have classes or students that are uncovered. And I understand about the terminology, if we could come up with something that would cover that, but they wouldn't have to be on site in other situations.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Are we gonna have our standard summer feeding program? Where are we on that? Are any of those programs gonna be at a school site, Ms. Kervin?
Yes. We're gonna have John Small as our central kitchen, and we're going to be manned down in Aurora as well.
Yeah, so it's covered in this.
But does children actually go to the site, or do y'all deliver, or how does that work?
This year, we've got approval to go totally non-congregant, so when students are at John Small, they can eat there, but most of our sites that they can pick up a meal and go home this year.
Okay.
We'll also provide them with breakfast for the following morning as well.
All right.
So we'll already be covering John Small because that's where summer school's gonna be. But that was my concern, is if we were gonna have
Good
summer
question.
feeding programs and the students go in those schools to eat, would they, we're back at having students on campus that are
Back to
not
student
covered.
camp. And the summer feeding program is very much needed for.
It's
our-
very popular,
Yep.
So,
Then,
at least I think.
do you want to
Yeah.
write? I'm sorry.
now, my question was, and, because I read through it and I already had keyed, number 8 as a question I was gonna have. Where does teacher workdays fall in this? Because technically, students aren't there, but I have 50, 60, 70 teachers on campus.
Right.
And some of those days, parents are coming in and out for meetings,
With kids.
or, because that's not summer. That happens all through the
This
school
is
year.
pretty much summer he's
Well, it's
talking
pretty much summer, but I haven't seen where it says that.
No, you can write a separate line about summer if you
Because
like.
I mean, I understand that, and I know you do, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
But this contract, or MOU, doesn't say that. Are
You're
they
right.
gonna be in, I guess to make it simple, are they planning on being in our schools on a mandatory or optional teacher workday?
I think they should be there if
Oh,
their
I-
staffs are there.
I'm sure they should be there, but what is the understanding?
Because there's parent-teacher conferences and everything else going on.
Right, but we keep going back to saying students.
In the conversation I had, it's whether students are present or not present. So if you
So
look
if the
at,
students aren't there on a teacher workday, they don't intend to be there.
I don't believe so.
Then you need to go back and renegotiate this MOU.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm not agreeing to that.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve.
Not agreeing to that at all.
Mr. Chair.
I'm not putting you guys at risk just because
I
a student's
agree.
not on campus.
The staff is not any less important than anybody else.
All right, Matt,
My fellow board members expressed concern here about this issue. I move that we table this until the next meeting.
Very-
Or
very
wait a
much.
minute, what
Uh-huh.
about if a small committee can come up with the terminology that's needed?
Well,
I
we've kind of
appreciate-
conveyed that to
You're
Dr.
good.
Cheeseman.
Can I just answer that one thing, or speak that? 'Cause I understand what he's saying, and because I've heard the same thing tonight, Donald.
Yeah.
I don't want to say this. I don't care what the terminology comes up with. The bottom line for me, are you at the school or not? Write it however you want to write it. But if I've got 80 students out in my school, 80 teachers at my campus meeting with parents, because let's just face the truth here. Some of the issues that you may have arise at the school is not between the teacher and a first grader. It's between a teacher and the parent of a first grader.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the kids, so it's the parents. Agree, Donna? So, you see what I'm saying? I realize we got to write the terminology to cover it, but the terminology doesn't put boots on the ground.
Right.
I want to know, are the boots on the ground
Yeah.
when my teachers
got
and
this.
principals are in that school?
So
we
in
got a
support,
motion, we got a
yeah.
motion.
I agree
to
with
table.
Matt.
Second.
And I got a second. All in favor to second.
Aye.
All right, say aye to table at the
Okay.
June meeting.
Got it.
Everybody's going, okay, we're good.
And, excuse me, I'm gonna add, do you think you will have the opportunity to speak with them about our concerns and get it back to us on May 21st?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
He's
Alrighty.
he's ready to work.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, we got a field trip request, I can't talk tonight. Request of 5.3, Dr. Cheeseman.
Northside High School, June 21st and 22nd to Bermuda Run for the basketball tournament. 12 male students, 12 female students, 5 male students, 2 female students, activity bus.
Motion to approve.
All in
Second.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Mr.
I
Williams.
move that we go into closed session pursuant to General Statutes 143, 318, 11A to prevent disclosure of confidential personnel files under General Statutes